Motion to approve.
So move. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Those carried. Yeah, we're short one over in a second. Sharon Junior.
I know.
So somebody else will pick up the slack.
I thought y'all was gonna beat me to it. I beat me to it.
There are no proclamations that I'm aware of. So we're on to 6.1, building code and unsightly premises, request for decision, community development, recreation, unsightly property, order to remedy.
Back again.
Yeah,
So,
we're always here for good reasons.
exactly.
Everybody, make everybody happy.
So today we are discussing 11 Valley in Chester. We've been working with the property for almost a year now, issuing letters and recently in order to remedy the condition of the unsightly premises. No action has been taken. So at this point, the Building Code and Sightly Committee is recommending to council to approve staff to work with legal counsel on the issuance of a summary offense ticket to the property owners of the 11 Valley Road, Chester, based on section 344 and section 348, section 4 of the Municipal Government Act, for failing to abide by the order previously served, along with a long form information so the municipality can seek to have the property cleaned up pursuant to section 505, section 4.
Questions, people? I think we all know what property is.
Motion to approve the recommendation.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
I think I'm up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, perfect. So again, 11 Valley in Chester, land use violations. So in the past couple years, staying right back to 2019, the property owner has constructed a vinyl tent, built an addition under their shed, and constructed a homemade vehicle maintenance hoist ramp. All those require development permits, and they were never applied for and constructed illegally. Before my time, the development office has worked with the property owners to try to get them to apply for permits, come into compliance, even offered to adapt it to have one application for all 3 violations instead of doing 3 separate forms. And to date, they have still not filled out the applications provided to them or submitted them to the office. So at this time, we're recommending that council approves staff to work with legal counsel on an order to comply. And if the property owners fail to comply with the order by the Municipality of Chester, the Municipality of Chester will complete the assigned work through the heavy equipment contract, and any expenses accumulated will be assigned to the property owner's taxes. The order will also include having one of our building inspectors vote in GPS the structure to confirm that the structure is not over the property line. That's also one of the complaints that was given.
Questions, people?
Just a question.
Yeah.
Is GPS sufficient as opposed to a survey for encroachment?
I'm gonna just ask Heather, the development officer, doesn't want to join us because she might be able to answer that question better for you than I can.
Okay.
So it is not a survey level of determining whether or not something is over the property line. It will give us an indication of if something is close and we need something more. So the issue is there's been an addition onto the back of an existing shed. And it appears, based on what we have so far, that it may be either, at the very least, not meeting the yard setback requirement of the land use bylaw, but that it very well may be over the property line.
Would you never go to court without a survey?
If we have to go, we'll have to deal with that at that point.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just trying to
It's just
get more
give more,
information on it.
Just one clarification.
Any further questions? Somebody prepared to move to accept the recommendation? So move. Second. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Find some others.
Let's try to take it easy for a few months.
Chester Playhouse. Oh, 9:15. Are you ready? We're all here.
We're all here.
We're ready. We're so ready.
Oh, go ahead.
We're like the book that has no ending.
Yeah, it's not your first trip.
No, it's not indeed, and we very much appreciate the invitation to come and speak to you again. It was almost to the day, 2 years from now, in the afternoon of the 11th, that many of us stood outside on Pleasant Street watching our playhouse burn.
Yeah.
It was devastating, and the sense of loss and grief was palpable. But because of that, the determination and the community spirit to rebuild our playhouse has led us to coming to share with you our thoughts about the reopening. And what's important about the reopening is that it's not just a celebration of the opening of a building. It's a celebration of the community that got us there. And looking around the table, all of you were part of that. And so we want to thank you very much for that. Susan's going to talk to us about the steps pre-reopening.
Sure.
And then Andrew's going to share with us some of his great work in leading to the reopening event and what's we plan for that great weekend.
And hopefully all goes well, and they can make the same.
Oh, yes, knocking on wood every day.
Knock on wood. It's a communal, yeah.
Communal knock on wood.
So great to be with you this morning. Thank you for your time. I'm just briefly recapping where we are. We are staying on schedule with construction, which is quite a miracle in this day and age. We have a really determined team. When I was in last week, I think I saw 9 drywallers, in one small section of the building. So everyone is working hard. The building remains on track on its $4.2 million budget. It's a little tight as we're coming towards the end, but we've got some flexibility. So there's no red flags yelling at us there. So we feel really good and really, really proud of that, and thankful to our incredible construction management team, Wilson Fitt, Kirk McCullough, who are just, keeping their noses in appropriately on a daily basis and working with all our local trades. So we will finish the building at the end of July into the, probably straggling a little bit into the beginning of August. Commissioning of the building will almost happen simultaneously. Like the day that the giant HVAC unit comes back by crane to the building, will probably be the day that Andrew, demands to turn it on and make sure that everything's working. And then all heading up to the official opening on August 26th. So the project is coming together. It's a race, but we are determined. So look forward to sharing it with you. Okay.
And then we get to celebrate.
Hey.
So as Sarah mentioned, we are not just opening a building, but launching the new Chester Playhouse, informed by our experience of the past 2 years, the community that has rallied around us and supported us through this time. We are beginning as we intend to carry on, and that is serving our community, beginning with this opening event. So the opening celebration is in 2 parts, aimed for the weekend of on Saturday, August the 26th, an afternoon outdoor event and an evening concert. I'll describe both. The afternoon, we are intending to close down 2 sections of the streets, Pleasant Street in front of the Playhouse and a section of Queen Street between Pleasant and Union.
Slides just go forward. Sorry, who's in charge?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
You can see those proposed routes. So setting up all morning, the event begins around 1 o'clock. The site opens for a 1:30 parade down from the Chester Legion, our unofficial home for the past 2 years, down to the theater on Pleasant Street for ribbon cutting, speeches from government leaders, invitation to Indigenous leaders to speak as well. Can we have the next slide? Once that short ceremony is complete, we celebrate with an outdoor variety concert with a diverse lineup of artists, some local, some from away. Confirmed currently is Jamila, a 9-piece reggae band who just won an ACMA, as well as Dark and Stormy. We'll have some other surprises in there, our local juggler.
You're gonna be ready?
He wasn't ready for that question. As well as short performances within that. Meanwhile, there will be an artist's market in the space. We've asked the Chester Volunteer Fire Department to loan their old fire truck for the space, if not a bouncy castle. Local businesses have signed on board enthusiastically, offering specials, drink specials, food specials. We're hoping folks come and enjoy this free celebration for all. Also importantly, we're offering free tours of the Playhouse for anyone who would like them. Show up, sign up, and get to discover what's been done the past 2 years, led by our welcoming team. This is the big celebration intended to be welcoming and available to all. Once that wraps up around 5, we have a small dinner break and then get ready for the Welcome Home concert at 8 o'clock that evening. This is the first performance in the new Playhouse, a chance for everyone to discover the first of many events that will be taking place in there and experience what we've done.
I mean, in theory, I mean, it's a big day because it's better than ever.
Yeah,
We
that's
certainly
right,
think so.
that's right.
Yes, yes.
Again, a diverse lineup made up of a mix of local emerging artists as well as established favorites. We have Sarah Prosper, an Indigenous dancer from Escazone, performing a movement-based land acknowledgement. Old Man Ludica will begin the concert as a Chester local. Lenny Gallant will be performing as well as a couple of other surprises as well. We're very deliberately keeping tickets low and affordable, so they are accessible to everyone in the community. They will be available first come, first served. They go on sale on June 11th in the afternoon, 2 years to the day since that fire.
They have Joe Plastic come.
Not yet, but he'll be here.
They'll be back, yeah.
You need help, just tell me.
Okay.
Well, on that note, next slide, please.
Need help.
How do we pay for it? I'm getting a note. So this has cost. This is an investment in our community to say thank you for their support over the past 2 years, and again carry on as we begin as we intend to carry on. Some revenue is coming from again modest ticket sales. We've got grants into Arts Nova Scotia and the Village Commission. There are 2 grants coming before this council asking for support for this event, some corporate sponsorships, and a contribution from the Playhouse of at least $10,000, depending on how those grants shake out. This is an investment that we're happy and eager to make to create an event that is welcoming, accessible, and exciting for all. The fire itself got national attention, and we hope and expect that the reopening and inspiring story of rising from the literal ashes will have similar excitement across the province and beyond.
If I might add, Andrew, we've also met with Tara and her team to really talk about that, and we'll be tapping into public relations support, communication support with the municipality.
Thank you.
So just in wrapping up, what we're here today is to share the news about the upcoming big event, to bring you up to date on where we are, but also to ask you to plan to join us on August 26th. We hope to be able to see everybody there and acknowledge everybody who's been such a big part of bringing the Playhouse back to life. We also, as Andrew indicated, we have a couple of grant applications in front of you that we're very much hoping that you'll see your way to approving. Bring everybody, spread out across the municipality. This is not just the Playhouse for Chester Village. This is the Playhouse for the whole municipality. And a lot of our strategic planning discussions going forward are how can we better and more effectively play that role on an ongoing basis. And so again, begin as we mean to carry on. You can help us very much that way. It's one of the reasons why we're staying close to the volunteer fire departments, for example, because their networks are extraordinary and often reaching into places that probably would never think of coming to the Playhouse. And yet we know we will all be richer if they do. if you, using your social media, other networks, we are going to be collaborating with you in terms of the communications. That'd be very helpful. We appreciate your continuing to champion the Playhouse, place of culture and entertainment. I think of it as a big part of helping to build a strong community municipality wide. And an economic driver, of course, as well. And one of the items that we also wanted to raise here was, we had raised it in a meeting with Tara, was the concept of, not necessarily for this year, but this year would be been lovely, but the thought was that there would be a municipally driven program of banners that would be used to generate excitement and activity municipality wide, not just Village of Chester, municipally wide, to feature, events, local organizations. I mean, in the village, Playhouse, it will be the Arts Center, Heritage Society perhaps, or whatever. But it could be something that could be done municipally wide, and it would sort of tie together the municipality. Plus, it would also, for tourists and so on, just create the visual energy and excitement. So for example, Chester Race Week, would perhaps have a banner. We would probably, I know the Art Center would be very interested in, and our health center and so on. And again, that's just talking really village and New Ross Farms and so on. So that's something that really does need to be coordinated on a municipal level, I think. And organizations that participate would be responsible for creating and paying the cost of their own banner. But that was an idea that came up for us in discussions, and we realized we don't have the time to do it full throttle for the reopening of the Playhouse, but it's still an idea that we thought we would pass along.
Sounds like a good idea. I'll let some staff member tell me what that all means.
Sure, exactly. And all of you will be getting an formal invitation to the day with the details by email within the next week. And Warden, your request will be to participate as a speaker in our tightly managed opening ceremony. But anyway, we're still looking forward to seeing. Yeah.
Okay. And we're open for questions.
Derek has one.
The banner. Not where I was going to start, but with the banner. Race Week has one now. Is that the sort of concept you're thinking?
No,
What
do
do
you
you mean
remember?
by banner? Just maybe.
Yes, that's what.
Light post.
Yes, remember when they 2 years ago during COVID, they celebrated the Forest Heights graduates? It's that idea.
Oh, where we
So-
put them on various poles.
Yeah.
That's right. So it spreads the visual interest around a bit. As I said, there's all kinds of opportunities there in terms of design. We're still we're going to be working with the yacht club on a sort of a co-shared banner where they put it on the corner of Pleasant and Queen for this year. But this is it's a different type of banner we're talking about for the ongoing municipal.
Yes,
program.
like where we put the graduates.
Yeah.
Pictures up on the.
Yeah, street pole banner program, where you'd have sort of every second one might be, Municipality of Chester,
Nova Scotia's treasure.
Nova Scotia's treasure.
Yeah.
And then in between, you would celebrate different, arts and cultural,
And
organizations.
then they change over the course of the year depending on the season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't remember that graduate one, sorry. I don't know where I was at.
You're probably
You're
in
probably
isolation or something.
Yeah,
It was COVID, you were at home.
could be, but I'd like to see visually what that looks
Yeah,
like. Some of these pictures of it. When you say banner, I'm looking at the big banner.
Tina has everything saved. so-
Yes, I know.
You can share that with
As soon as you get your computer.
on the completion of the theater. I'm not quite sure what the new capacity is going to be. Is it the same?
The same,
Same.
176.
176, no change, but no balcony.
A small balcony on one side.
Okay.
because a lot of that is tech.
I do look inside, but I haven't been invited to go upstairs yet, so,
Almost ready to show.
Almost ready to show up.
We've been holding off on tours until the drywalling is done. It's a little dusty in there right now, as you can imagine.
I think there were 14 drywallers in there.
We count them
Even
all.
better.
Yeah, it was
It's a
amazing.
big, a lot of
I get to
drywall.
sneak in when I'm walking by and looking.
Yeah, I imagine my old party room is gone.
You're, no, there's, the whole playhouse is your party room. Let's call it that way. Let's call it Alan Weber's party room. And a great
I wasn't
new,
the only one there.
a great new
A
bar.
lot of them have passed away since.
When it comes, I saw the, and that's a question, I saw in your chart,
I just sold it.
the district grants. And there was, there's a request in here for a $2,000 district grant, District 3.
Yeah.
But we all know this is a municipal facility, and I'm just gonna put it out there now before, while they're here. That, I mean, it's a modest request of $2,000 for district grant, and I think rather than just District 3, we should all look at maybe contributing something to that as a district grant. I'll just plant that seed right now. So when we have the discussion later on district grant, because I'm gonna be looking around the table for other people to contribute to that, and so.
Okay. Anyone else questions, comments? Yeah, Dean.
Just a comment, love plans, love everything that you do, love the outreach. I think maybe the first exposure that I might have had would have been when the targeted music program was happening near us. And Jamie Younger, I think, reached out to Eric, I think maybe at the time. And I said this here at council, and said it with you here, but it means so much. The fact that you opened up your stage, your facility to those participants, to the youth. There were some adults there, but young performers, new performers. And Eric's comment, I think, to me is that this might be the first, not the only, but the first time that maybe these individuals would have a chance for that public, professional, the whole, that whole thing, right? So that, and I think I might have seen all of you when you were at Boys Community Center. I believe it was election night, wasn't it? Was it not? It was that Saturday night? It was, right? Yeah, I'm a detail person, unfortunately, right? But yeah, so good to see you all again, so that was there in that particular outreach. And I know that the director at the Ross Farm, Peter Cullen, always spoke just so highly of the partnership with the Chester Arts Center and the Playhouse. And it wasn't just words,
I was so
there were
sorry to
actions.
hear about
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, we're planning some things in the community now.
Good,
So,
okay.
yeah, so thank you for that, and I think when I probably should have maybe put through our arts and culture discussions and the strategy and the pieces of that before I sat here, because then I could maybe speak a bit more detail, but just a perfect fit in what we're trying to do and what we're doing with, I would think, with the arts and culture strategy for the municipality of Chester, and it is a municipality of Chester, so see you on the 26th.
Excellent. We'll look forward to it.
Yeah, just before, if we want to pursue that banner initiative, we should give staff some direction. And I understand that there's a beautification grant and the deadline is in 2 weeks, so they have that. So we want to go down that road.
Is that a beautification thing?
Well, I think they could fit it in somehow.
No, it would definitely fit in the beautification program. And we've just had some initial discussions because we talked about it last week, and we think that we could get something at least as a pilot for this year up and running in the village and then expand that out quite easily if we want.
That'd be amazing.
So do we want them to go down that road?
I'm not overly worried about the beautification. It sounds like more of an economic development.
Well, yeah, it's just that we get some money.
Let's
so-
get some money to offset
Yeah.
costs.
Eventually, be.
Yes.
Yeah.
there is.
So I'm not looking for a motion, I just want to know
Yep,
that.
that
way.
would just one direction.
Yep.
Yeah. And back with my idea. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
And thanks for all the hard work.
Thanks to you for that too.
So,
Yes.
9.1. Good fun, it always is. We seem to be talking for this constantly. Yeah.
So I would agree, yeah, we tend to talk about grant and grant criteria and our grant program quite frequently.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time,
I don't know if we ever will, but that's all right. 9.1.
Yeah.
We are.
Just give me my paper copy.
There you go.
yeah, it'd be great to get into a routine where we get all our criteria set and then we can just deal with the intake.
Yeah.
I know, I understand we need to make it work for both for council and for our not-for-profit group. So
We're not there yet.
we're not, doesn't seem like we're quite there yet. I don't quite have it worked out. So, so over the past year, we have done a kind of a full review of our grants program, and there was quite a number of changes that were made, and staff took those all those requests and suggestions from council and made those changes and implemented for this year. And then back earlier in the spring on April 6th, when we were having some discussion around grants, there was a suggestion that perhaps there's still some gap areas that need to be worked out, and perhaps some additional changes made to the grant program to kind of meet those. So the report that's in front of you today is just a little bit of that summary. And it's essentially, there's no specific recommendations in here. It's essentially to bring it back to the council agenda, generate some discussion, and get some thoughts from council on potential changes and where we might want to go. And then there's no urgency necessarily to this, because if any changes that were made, we've already gone past our capital deadlines, which are in January, and of course our operating deadline has gone by as well. So any changes that's discussed, it would be for next year. So so a couple of the items that council has suggested you'd like to discuss, and one was some of the gaps that come up with a couple of specific examples that were brought up where perhaps our grant program is not meeting those needs. And so the suggestion was that no changes to our major capital grant, but perhaps the small capital, which is brand new, maybe needs to be tweaked a little bit in order to accommodate some of those projects in the community that aren't currently being met. So so just as a reminder that the new small capital program. It's intended to fund up to a maximum of $10,000, and council set the total budget at a cap of $25,000. So the suggestion was that there are perhaps some projects out there that are perhaps a little bit larger than that, but that don't meet the criteria for the major project, and that potentially might be a gap area. So so I guess maybe if you want to start with that one and have some discussion on what folks think.
Yeah. That wasn't the one I didn't have any real issues with that particular section. Somebody else did.
I missed that meeting actually from, I was just waiting here and able to say it. Anything
I mean, you can opt it, but the money got come, so that's all.
it's, yeah, 10,000, that's what we asked, and there's $25,000 budget, doesn't give.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of room. That's what it means. That page.
Andre.
So, I think, I think there's two examples in the last few years that we can point to. It's how we want to sometimes support a local organization, but we don't seem to have the right arrow in our quiver. So the one I know the most about, and that would be the roof at Blandford Community Center, District 1 Community Center. Now, I think it's similar. We had a similar case in the 40s Community Center some years ago. So it's a good prosperous organization that does a ton of community programming in the District 1 area, as you're well aware. It's a very large facility. And they've got a large standing seam roof, and it's now almost getting to the point where it's closing in on 40 years of age, and they're getting ready to, deal with that before, it's at the end of its lifespan. So they're getting ready to do a re-roof, and they have quotes in excess of $100,000 to do the roof job.
Yeah, so what I don't understand what our problem is there, because that would be a large capital grant.
It does not,
doesn't.
because it don't meet
No,
that.
it doesn't, the fire department has a lot to do with that one, doesn't it?
No, it's because it's not really expanding, it's not the repair.
Oh, okay, it's repair. Okay.
Yeah, that one, that example relates mostly to the criteria, and so we at council had determined that
It has to
anything
be
that's.
new, yes.
Exactly.
Expanding, and I think that is the intent of council, is we wanted that, we
Yeah.
created that special fund, it's like we want to expand the
Create
scope.
news.
Yeah, and I understand how that, why we have that, but we haven't asked like this. I remember well, and I'm sure, Lloyd, you will remember well, I said this before, when they had, I think that group of District One Community Center came in maybe in 2015 or something, and they wanted to like put some new plumbing in their bathrooms or something, some little project. They were asking for like $8,000, and we're like, oh, you got $60,000 or $70,000 in the bank, you know, what do you want? You know, what do you want so much money for? Like, and we gave them small amount. But then the reason why they were holding that much is for big jobs like that, so we penalize them on one side and at the same
No,
time.
we give them the money that year, if I remember, I do remember that.
Now we come down.
Well, we got it from there.
I'll get Tina to tell us what happened.
How much money was there?
But in the end of the day, really the point is that, these are, you know, I think there's no question the value of the facility. They're completely 100% aligned with the kind of things we want to do here.
Yeah.
So that's not in question, you know, it's just like, how do we go and then come and ask for $10,000 to drop in the bucket for a project like that?
But it really is how much money do we want to put in and what's the maximum on small grants we want to
And
establish.
I agree that we don't want to set it up and say, okay, you know, you can go up to 50 or say 25,000 or 30,000, then you get a bunch of stuff that sort of meets those minimum criteria, but it really isn't, we don't want to go there for like, just, you know.
No, we can't be fixing everything all the time for everybody.
Yeah, just because you can, doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
But, you know, if the scope, and then maybe we might want to put some safeguards around it, like, you know, up to a certain percent of the project, or even those are difficult to predict.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of like, so I guess that's where a lot of this discussion today is, because when we revamped the grant system, it actually made it worse for this scenario, this particular scenario.
Okay, so we want to take a look at upping the amount that would be available from 10 to whatever, maybe it's 20, I don't know what it is. And then you'd have to figure out what's the max in the budget sort of deal. And
What's the criteria you're talking
then the criteria, well, yes, and percentage of cost and things like that, but that's all. Bring back a recommendation. I
And
think.
it really comes down, it's like these like groups that have real assets, real property. So it's like your community centers and like, even it could be an art center or a playhouse or whatever. But you know, if you're not expanding their facility, they're just like, it's just a repair that's just too big for them to handle on their own. We need to have a mechanism to jump in and I don't know, we want to create another stream where they can just appeal to council and we can make a decision, leave this sort of criteria sort of like open. And knowing that what is it, maybe just with some guiding principles for future councils so that, you know, they understand what the intent of what we were trying to do is, or we want to set some sort of open up the criteria here and then, yeah, I don't know, but I feel like we got a gap and we got to address it.
Tina?
Thank you. So in terms of bringing back a recommendation, and I think we can continue the discussion here. We might even come to a resolution would be my hope. Because first off, I'm reading in the request for decision, I'm gonna jump down, I'm gonna talk with the criteria piece first before we talk about the money maximums. One problematic area raised with small capital is ineligibility, maintenance, repairs. So I'm all for opening up that stream for maintenance and repairs.
The major project. you're
Yeah,
referring to.
small. It's on that paragraph, small. Just to be clear, I'm all in favor of opening up that criteria piece for maintenance and repairs. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
That's a start.
That's a start, so I think, okay. And getting back to major capital, again, not talking any money piece yet. I'm still in support of keeping major project for those new initiatives, innovative, expanding on their ability to then create revenues, creative funds, creative solutioning. I'm okay with that and not opening up, I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm good with the criteria the way it is now with major project.
Yeah,
That-
I think we all.
Okay, good. Now it's a money piece. So, I don't know what that magic number is, but I would think we're gonna just come back with another recommendation. We're still gonna be all over the map a little bit. I would hope there's
Might
downtime.
be for small.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's one
Just
simple
small.
thing. I think that we're, is that
Open it
what?
up for maintenance and what's
Yes.
the limit and
Yeah.
what's the maximum budget we're gonna set. That's really.
Versus Chad coming back again, like, I mean,
Well, I mean, we need to tell him something, is it 20? And are we setting the budget at 50? I mean, I don't know.
The annual budget is on 25 now, so.
Yeah, so
That's
we double the budget,
That's right.
double the amount.
That's right.
That's a step in the right direction.
The intent of this discussion, I think, is to handle like, it's really to do with built environment, like buildings.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
It's like, I don't want somebody to say, oh, we're gonna, some group forms up or whatever, they create a little society and then they wanna build a park somewhere and suddenly we're putting $25,000 into a park that we didn't plan for. I think it's more like, you have
We have
infrastructure
major
that has
structures.
a purpose that aligns with our mandate.
sorry, I know I'm supposed to wait my turn or something else with this.
Your turn.
But I wanted to mention about the fact that, and Chad would know more about this than I, but those organizations can make an application, and most of them that make an application have had success to the province of Nova Scotia, have they not, Chad, with recreation facility development grant.
A lot too.
So, let's use a Blanford example again. So that's a community facility. I can't speak for the province, but I would think that they would check the boxes for a community facility. They would be an eligible applicant. Again, province would have to make that decision. And what's the maximum of that? 75%?
The provincial,
Yeah,
normally, 1/3 up to 150,000.
okay, I was wrong. 1/3 up to 150. So if they want to look at a new roof, let's say, they would apply for 1/3 of that through the province. The province would consider in-kind contribution and all of that value as part of that total budget of 100 up to 150. They come to us, whatever the amount is, and Heritage Canada maybe, who knows? That's federal, right? And it's not stacking when you think of it in a respectful way, the three levels of government. So I would think that if I can't speak for the Blanford Community Center, but if the Blanford Community Center looked at the deadline of next February for the provincial deadline, our deadline, which is January, poof, 100,000.
I agree with everything we're talking about, we need to change it. Blanford's a bit unique. And I'm gonna speak because of the fire department, it's there. So they should be, our other fire departments have no ability to get grants from us, for major repairs. Blanford Fire Department is there, so there should be an income from that fire department, that rent or whatever, which would give them more of an opportunity than most of our community centers for income, because they don't charge their fire department income. So I see that part of that building as being a fire department regardless of what it's listed as.
Yeah, it's a very unique situation.
In a unique situation, which, how would I put it, it could give them a huge advantage over our other centers.
Right. And so one of the things that I did is I included a list of some of our facilities within the municipality, just to give a little context. So I think, looking at one specific facility is one thing, but looking at the broader, so potentially we could, thinking of the small capital, we could receive applications from any one of these particular groups. And I know just from conversations, so we had a public meeting down at the Lions Club when I was chatting with them, and I know they're gonna have a roof project coming up in the next little while. I know the Chester Brass Band has a roof project and a siding project coming up over the next little while. And so those are the types of things that I think we would see in terms of applications coming into this.
Yeah.
And so that's just.
So I think we should open it for reviews. I don't think that's a knowledge. It's just how much money are we gonna, what are our limits?
And it has to be, I think, for these kind of like, we have to be really specific. I just don't want it to, I don't want it to get into some weird projects or something like this is really, to me, if we're gonna go into this upper band of funding, it's for big projects, big repair projects.
Yeah.
So I think that is a really important part of clarification, because when we talk about capital projects, even groups that own facilities, if they wanted to get into a capital projects, like if they wanted to install a $25,000 new sound system in their facility, that's a capital project. So So that's, I think, some of the clarity we need here, because
Yes,
I don't think that's what you're mentioning on, right? So if you're talking about just facility only and
You know,
repairs related to the facility, then that's a little bit.
maybe we might want to change like the criteria, so like you can go up to 10,000 small capital, so if you're doing a project, like you want to put
The sound system.
a sound system, that's a good example, then you can take it up to that, but if you can access for like repair, like major repair work, you can access into some higher level. And maybe set some up to a certain up to a certain level and a certain percentage of the project or something.
Yeah, leave the 10,000 for just that. Off the
That was
cuff.
the intent of what we
It's
said.
just trying to keep the buildings in sound shape, that's what we're trying to do, and help them in some fashion.
But I mean, if you're doing a sound system, that's something you can plan for and you can fundraise and you can do all that stuff.
And it's not critical time sensitive and all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess, I like the idea of not putting a dollar amount on it, a percentage of the project in cost, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, but
So that's gonna create.
is that gonna be tricky?
It will, like, let's
Okay.
just say that, another roof could be $200,000, and so if it's a percentage of, then your percentage is all of a sudden gonna be really big.
Okay.
And we want to provide some sort of, it's not the right words, but like a little bit of pressure or on them to seek other sources of funding as well, not just to go for the low hanging fruit on the municipality or cough
Oh,
up.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, their budget's unlimited, just
We
go
don't have to
ask.
make any applications to other groups. So like, it's good to keep that
Yeah,
urgency there to seek out other sources of funds. And I agree with you, by the way, that the District 1 is unique in that they have this other connection.
Yeah.
But I think that, like the Forties Community Center, I think it's actually physically in very good shape because they've got a track record of being very successful at finding money.
revenues.
But then, in 10 years or 15 or whatever, they may also have a huge roof or whatever, so this policy is very important.
Gary?
So if we change the criteria, which I think we all agree with, we could leave the numbers the same, 25 and 10. I mean, we could increase it, but I think we should separate the two. If we want to make motions, the two motions.
Well, yeah, I think we're just looking, yeah.
Are we just looking at criteria?
Well, I mean, I think that we want to leave the criteria for the 10,000 for capital, but we want to add a piece that allows them to be for maintenance.
Right, that's the
Like
criteria.
here, yeah.
We're still dealing with the.
Yeah, so we could leave, let's say we left the criteria for the small capital at what it is, and the budget remains at 25. But we add another category, which would be for the maintenance and repair of larger community facilities or whatever. Well, existing community facility.
With a limit?
Well, I mean, we need to set a budget. I mean, there's a limit to everything.
I think that, we could do something like for big projects, it's maybe up to 25,000 or 1/3 of the project or something
Or
like that.
something like that.
That will,
And then next year, we'll have to determine how much money we're gonna throw into that pot. Yeah.
We'll put it under our major capital grants if there's enough money in there to do that. We don't use it every year. There's money there.
But the major capital grants, though, we wanted to leave as initiatives for
innovation.
innovation.
I think
So we don't use it.
Well, so that's good if you don't use it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, it's not, look at it whatever way you
I
want.
don't know, we're getting so many different lines. Well, we are getting, 4 or 5 different recreation, we have.
Well, if we aren't using it anymore, maybe we could take some of the money out of that one and put it into this one.
That's possible, yeah.
Well, I think that when we have those large capital ones, we should only be, I think that it should be a little bit more of a competition. Sometimes we wanna, like you may have we've had years where we've had 4.
Yeah, we have.
And that's a lot, and usually in most times when there's something like an opportunity for a group to do something, usually if there's a finite number of projects that will succeed. We historically say, well, they're all great ideas, how do we ever decide? And we don't want to make that decision, so we just say, bring them all in, and we just start throwing the money around, but I mean, I think that maybe we need to make it a bit more of a competition, and if say we take like only the best couple, and, you know, you can always come back the next year and try again, you might win
Well,
next.
those large capital ones are all designed to, what do we believe, what projects do we believe are going to have the most significant economic impact on the municipality of Chester? You know, so that's how.
I would be very interested in a competition between applications coming to this table. We'll be here for a month trying to figure out the criteria and the score sheet with the competition between community groups in terms of what defines their major project versus another major project. Because we've had that discussion when there are 4 on the table, all 4 were great.
The simple way is then I guess.
You set a budget.
Set a budget and make it a special, another,
Yeah,
whatever.
which ones are the most time sensitive, which ones are whatever.
So just a reminder, so all of the money in both the major capital and the small capital comes out of our 1/3
Yeah.
wind revenue.
Yeah.
And so currently, we have 250,000 as the max for the major capital and 25,000 for the
Yeah.
small capital for a total of 275. So that's where we're at right
I
now.
think we did 50,000 out of that big one,
Put it in.
and put it in for,
Yeah, take 50 of the big ones, set up a new category for maintenance and repair.
Yeah, that's not a big amount, 25 towards.
Well,
maybe 50 extra, so.
Yeah, well, not 50, but I mean that 25.
There's 50 more than that we have available at the moment.
So 2 groups would be able to do up to $25,000
Yeah.
or 1/3 or say,
Yeah.
and that's something.
Yeah, and we
A year,
could state that that we won't contribute any more than 1/3 of the cost of the project, whatever, I don't.
Yeah, because if it's repair of plumbing in a bathroom or something, changing from concrete tags and the project's $11,000, we don't want to give them $11,000.
No, they need
We need to start a little bit.
find some, there's
One
some.
third of 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1/3 out of 25.
It's a good
Let's
25.
just start, it's more than we ever have. So it's a step in the right direction.
Just kind of tweak the criteria for small capital instead of setting up a new.
Well, the small capital is open for. It's not necessarily repair, you would be doing something new.
I understand,
Yeah.
and change the criteria, it could be.
We could do that there.
And just
Make
put more money.
just make adjustments.
6 to 1, half a dozen, yeah.
Make adjustments to the small capital criteria that would allow both projects to come in, so that the maintenance repair would be eligible as well as a new project. And if it was facility related,
Okay, so just off the budget, no big criteria.
so when you say up the budget, so we're moving 50,000 from the major capital.
Into.
So that major capital budget for next year would be 200,000, and the small capital budget would be 75,000. So we haven't increased the budget at all, we just reallocated.
Yeah.
That's 2 monster projects, that's still a lot.
That's still a lot.
It is.
The more they get.
We're very good.
Yeah.
You get 3.
Okay, so that's your, where we are?
Yeah.
You're very good, so we can update.
More.
We can, so we'll make those changes to the criteria. We've got lots of time prior to next January to.
And you're still, doesn't matter how much you tweak, you're still gonna get unique situations.
This discussion would get Tina's hackles up a little bit more than.
But we're not quite done
See,
yet, though.
It never did anything.
Okay, let's move on to the next issue that we can't
Say
resolve.
right.
Okay, the next one that has been a long-standing conversation as long as I think we've been doing grants, and that's the conversation around private member clubs. And so at the,
To me, they should be eligible for those grants that we just talked about.
okay, traditionally.
Private members clubs anymore.
Yeah, so traditionally in the past, we have said no to any private member clubs, just because the private member clubs. And so some of the services that are available are for members only. And so there are some organizations have some perks for those that are members. Others is more of just a model to bring in revenue for their operations. So traditionally, we have not allowed private member clubs to apply for grants. And then, as I mentioned here, over the last little while, we've kind of loosened those restrictions. And so any of those private member clubs we've allowed to apply for funding that is more for events, for example, so that if a Legion or any other private member group wanted to host an event that was open to the general public, then we would support that through our grants program. So I guess we open up.
Well, I guess, I know that the Legions, I don't care which one you go to. Most of what they do is community based. No.
It's not like it was, private,
No.
especially that Legion.
But there are
You know,
lots of
40 years
people.
ago, there were members and there were,
Yeah.
you know, but that was a different, now it's.
But nowadays, I mean, I keep referring to the basic, because that's the one I go to, but I mean, that's where you go to learn how to firearm safety, that's on Sundays, that's where you go if you're having a wedding or a reception, that's where you go to have your dinners, and that's whatever, I mean, that's just community fun days, whatever it is, they all take place there, it's just not, I know that they're membership based, but yeah.
So I agree, the Legion piece, I don't think there's an event that would exclude or walk you through the doors of any of the Legions, I don't think. I mean, I could just think of Nuance, you know. I've yet to take an Abdellah's singing over there, but.
But I know, but that's
I'm
what
just saying,
community fun
but
nights.
there's no exclusions where I can walk into my Legion. Or any event, or any supper, or any fundraiser, or anything that I can think of. Is that the same with other facilities? I don't know that. And I'm just gonna also add the fact that we support
There's
it.
certain ones that are.
I'm good.
So I can't agree with, I'm not agreeing with, and it's a majority here, I get that, so forgive voters. But I can't agree, I can't get my head around major monies from this table, from the taxpayer going into some organizations. It just
There are
doesn't
some
sit,
that are questionable.
doesn't sit well with me. And with the example of the Hubbard Sailing Club, we were able to provide, was it 100? I can't remember, 75 or 100.
I don't know, what the sales are with the event.
But that's what I'm saying, but it went into facility upgrades to host that event, which was open. So that was an example of where it did work. It worked before. We changed, we're looking at changing, opening up this stuff. So now I can't, we'll talk about it, but I can't sit, it doesn't sit well with me in terms of putting.
Well, I mean, I don't like to say it publicly, because maybe I don't know as much as I should, but like the Rod and Gun Club, I don't know of community events that are held there, like in the same fashion. The doors aren't open, you know, like.
And what about the golf club?
And that's actually the true too, and, you know, and it's possible that the yacht club may fall into that category. But I guess it's just that when I look at the Legions maybe are the most obvious ones.
No, I agree.
They're the hub of community.
So they can demonstrate.
A community center, basically.
Yes, and
Community events.
maybe their eligibility would have to be based on them demonstrating
Community events.
the community activities and community role that they play.
Love it.
So some organizations may have a membership fee of some sort. Some may just charge a drop-in fee. But it's just a mechanism to get revenue from those who participate in their facility. You know, I think if we can draw a distinction between those groups and groups that have criteria that are above just paying a fee to become either a member or a drop-in or whatever, like this. You know, to me, if all it is paying a fee, that's still open for everybody. That's like, it's no different than paying a fee to go into a museum.
No, but the Legions, I mean, to be a member is a very specific criteria.
Or what criteria?
Well, it's your swear your allegiance to this, that, and all that stuff.
Pretty minor. I guess like sometimes there's selection criteria that are outside your control as an applicant. So, you know, they can say no.
Yeah.
For example, there are some groups that we know of that don't take everybody that may come along. Those are the ones that I think that I would have trouble funding. Like, for example, if I wish to become a member. A Mason or a member of the golf club, and even if I'm willing to pay the fee, I could still be denied. That becomes harder than to fund. Now, the group may also sometimes do community events, in which case we maybe could support those events, but it's hard to, you know, maybe put a lot of money into their facility if they have those other exclusionary criteria beyond just, you know, like holding up your hand and agreeing to, you know, swear allegiance to the king or something.
So I think Alan, you mentioned, so one of the criteria, like if we opened it up, all of the grants up to private member clubs, is that there could be a criteria specifically for those clubs to demonstrate the public access to their facility and their services and their programs.
That's right, yeah.
That could be
Yeah.
added to the criteria.
Yeah, that's right, I mean, if it's only 1% of the usage is open to the public, then yeah, you're probably not gonna get much money. But if you can demonstrate that half or 3/4 of what you do is all open to the public, then yeah.
I like that idea, Chad.
Yeah.
Me too.
I like that idea.
If you look at churches, so they're.
Jerry had his hand up first, sorry. They're gonna follow the rules and I'll get around.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not in favor of opening it up to private members, I'll lay that out there,
Okay.
but I am prepared. I can see some, I would support and some, I wouldn't. Try to make the distinction, I think it's gonna be a problem. I'm prepared to look at criteria for legions and those types of community facilities. But to say carte blanche, we're gonna open it up to private members, not a chance, in my view. And, I'm thinking, prepared to look at new criteria for hybrids, they're.
I guess not to be the.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
See it.
Well, I'm not.
Boy, I can't wait till I get those lights there flashing.
I know.
Same page, the narrative here. I think legions in most cases are the community centers for your areas, and that they made themselves community centers. But I see other ones here that I definitely don't agree with.
Yeah, well, that's.
And I don't care what they do, it may be a function, but not for maintenance on churches, for example. And I mean, what can be more public? I don't think there's a church in Nova Scotia that you can't walk into, so it's public. I don't think you could argue the churches aren't open to the public.
We're opening ourselves up.
We are.
Well, yeah, and I thought about that too, because if you're down the road of religion, then whatever.
Yeah,
There's a
fire
lot,
hall.
there's a lot more to that. Well, fire halls shouldn't be because they pay tax, and that's a whole different ballgame.
And some of the other private clubs that I sort of agree with Eric, that I'm not convinced they're really public.
Well, the legions are the ones that,
Well, I don't know.
yeah, I just know what they are these days, and they are what they
Community
use.
centers for areas as well, I mean, they do serve a big community function.
I think we'd have to sort of come up with some type of a criteria, even if it's arguing one by one, which one we think.
Well, demonstrating the access and use by the public is certainly something that should be in there. But I mean, if we're gonna, just how open do we wanna make it, I guess, and I don't know, I just know that it's a bit of an issue in trying to keep some of these places afloat these days.
Yeah.
So anybody have any clear idea what direction we should give? Okay.
I don't know how else we can resolve the relationship properly, and we could.
We got three.
We need to go through one by one and have that fist fight.
Well, that's good, fine, you like that.
Yeah, you wanna do it now?
I love the humanity of it.
I think it almost takes an hour of our time sometime after a meeting, something to work.
Now, we gotta say, how do we make it easy on ourselves and let that staff go away and make some recommendations? We come back and then we can argue about
We can.
Well, they already have made some recommendations.
them.
They have, but yeah, we'll have a workshop, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we wanna go down the road of opening it up some, we just aren't sure how right now.
And I think my preference is in working with community groups is that we have clear criteria and
Yes.
direction at the outset, as opposed to having the groups put the effort into putting together an application and then deciding that, no, we don't think they're eligible.
No,
So
no, we need to tell them what is and what isn't. Okay, so
Okay.
that's it for now.
okay,
So I'd just like to ask Chad, so if the criteria changes for Legion, would that open up any avenue for Legion to repair their playground? How would that work? Would that?
as a capital project, yeah, so traditionally and before today, I would have said no,
No.
because it would be a capital project, but if we make those changes, then that would open them up to both the major project and the major for capital and the small capital.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, all of them have had to, for the accessibility pieces, put in the chairs that go up to the top, and the ramps and all that kind of stuff. And they had no choice but to do it, but there was no way for us to help with that.
I think just before we go, I think a lot of this, sometimes on the applications, they should be trying for other avenues of funding.
Of course.
So, you know, some of them don't, and I don't know.
And maybe that should be on our application.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to have it there.
For all of our.
Have you, would at least the answer, so.
I don't really remember if Legions are eligible for funding it from the.
That should affect every organization, yeah.
Well, I know they get certain things from.
I think it's important, answer, something you should know going in, have they at least tried and get denied or something.
Yeah, so sometimes they're eligible, but the project is denied. Sometimes there are some criteria, like Legions are eligible for some grants and not other grants, just like every organization, just depending on what they do and what they own. That, yeah, sometimes there's lots of opportunities through, you know, provincial and other avenues. Sometimes they're very limited. So just depends.
Okay, Dina?
Thank you. So I know that we're not, talking about staff and job descriptions and not individuals, but positions, if you will. So we have Nadine, who is our community development coordinator, so title, make sure. So what role does she play, or can she play? Like, again, we're councils, we don't get into that stuff, but things can change. So I think that there would be a role for Nadine and somebody within the office, maybe not Nadine, but to play within that kind of navigation and advice and pointing in the right direction. And I don't just mean high level, I'm a little bit getting in the weeds. Because, I think that that's the missing piece. When before we had the Regional Economic Development Authority, which I was community development officer, of course. But getting in the weeds and helping people, not maybe putting the pen to the paper, but I'm just putting that out there because some of these groups are just, they just don't know what to do, they don't know. And I think that they'd be more than willing to roll up their own sleeves and make that ask and pick up the phone to the province or Heritage Canada or whoever it might be. So I see there could be something there in terms of Nadine working with all of our community groups or somebody, maybe it's not Nadine, but the position. Is that something that we could consider? Again, I know we can't direct here, but maybe just leave it with you, the office or something?
Yeah, so I think there's opportunity. So we do play a supportive role to our community groups and a lot of times it's through the questioning, through the grants. So if a group approaches, say, we have a roof project, we're looking for funding, what funding is available through the municipality, and that inevitably leads to. So here's the opportunities through the municipal grant program. And by the way, there's other opportunities that you could consider. And so it's not a requirement, but we do provide that information and those contact information for the groups to then follow on. So if there was, so I guess it just depends on what additional support that particular group requests from us. And there has been lots of occasions where we set up a meeting so that myself from the municipality and Anna Hanshaw from the province, our local regional rep, and we'll all get in the room at the same time and talk about grant opportunities and what's the best fit for the particular project that they have. So that does happen on a regular basis. So could there be more of that?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thanks, we're done with this one. We're not done.
Right.
Break. Break? Sure. No, 10 minutes. What?